वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। अज्ञानान्धस्य लोकस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। Good morning, everybody. And for those of you tuning in from other places in the world, good evening, good night, good afternoon. I hope for those of you in the States that if it was too late, that you found a convenient time to shift your video to. Sometimes if you watch it too late at night, then it's easy to fall asleep during the lecture. So it's better if you shift your time to another time, or just watch the YouTube recordings at your own convenience. My pranams, my prostrations to Pujya Guruji Swami Tejomayananda Ji, who formerly was the global head of Chinmaya Mission. And because of his inspiration, because of his encouragement, at various very crucial points in my path, I continued in my study of Sanskrit, kept going, and he was the one who really drew me into the Chinmaya International Foundation. All the way from, I think, 2009, he was saying, "Come, you must come and work at Chinmaya," as soon as he found out that I was studying Sanskrit. So because of his inspiration and his constant encouragement, which is really the epitome of being a guru, that you encourage the growth of all your students. Because of that, I was really able to do whatever I've done so far. So my heartfelt pranams and prostrations to Pujya Guruji, where everybody refers to him very lovingly as Guruji or Pujya Guruji. So my pranams to Guruji. Now, until this week, we have worked on a few different things. We saw how dhatus are derived from the universe. We saw how once we have this sound given to us by Panini, we have to clean them up and we have to prepare them. And we talked about how they would come out and interact with the world. So far, we have discussed their upcoming interaction, but we haven't yet actually talked about who they interact with, how that interaction takes place, what is the actually chemistry of that interaction. And so today we will start with understanding that interaction. We have talked about pratyayas. We have said how they are the suffixes or the affixes that attach to these dhatus in order to make words. But we haven't really seen a picture. We haven't seen a chart as yet. So what I would like to do is to show you a chart, a very basic chart that kind of gives you an outline of what it is that we're doing. So if Sridharji, if you can just share my screen. It should be connected. Okay. It's connecting. The circle is spinning. Okay, can you stop the screen share real quick? Let's see. Just hold on for 1 second. I'll give it a minute. Sometimes, despite the testing of technology, many times before you begin, it still doesn't cooperate when you need it to. So just 1 minute. I will reopen the app. Okay, let's try again. It's not connecting. Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Phew. So here's a little chart for you. Very, very basic, very simplistic here. But let's start from the top. I would prefer if you read only one line at a time as we go down, so that so you don't get confused. So we have the basic structure of Sanskrit grammar, the way in which words are made is a combination of something called prakriti, which we have over here, and pratyaya, which we have over here. So prakriti means that natural thing which contains the meaning that you want to convey, and pratyaya is the suffix or the affix that helps you to convey that meaning in a particular way, whether it's in verbal forms, whether it's singular, dual, or plural, or it's first person, second person, third person, or whether it has to do with a particular mood or a tense. I want to say it in past tense. All of that stuff comes from the pratyaya. But the content of what it is you want to actually say, that's the nature of the prakriti. So prakriti, for example, we have this one prakriti called patha. Okay, patha means to read or to study, as we've seen several times actually. So please come. So we've seen these prakritis many times, this particular prakriti many times, patha, and pat contains the meaning inside of it. Pat tells you to read or to study. That much we are going to be expressing. And the pratyaya that attaches to it, suppose we attach a pratyaya ti to it. That ti pratyaya tells us that we're talking in singular. We're talking in prathama purusha, which means the third person in English, but first person in Sanskrit. And it also indicates to us that we are talking in present tense. So all these things, they come under pratyaya. If you remember, in one of our first lectures, we saw something called a kriya padam. Kriya padam was that final form we want to create. Kriya padam means the verbal form. So I wonder if I can actually find that thing for you. I think I can. Yes. Okay, so let's go all the way back to our original slides here. Yeah, you guys remember this, hopefully. Okay. Da, 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 da. Okay, here we are. Yes. Okay. Here. So I hope you guys remember Kriya Padam, which means verbal form. It's our actually verb that we use. Now the dhatu here, this dhatu is the container of the meaning that you want to express, the reading or studying in the example pat. The lakara is the thing that contains the tense or the mood that you want to speak in. The purusha is the person, and the vachana is the number, singular, dual, or plural. So the prakriti is this part here. This is called prakriti. And the pratyaya is all of this stuff. Okay, so this is prakriti plus pratyaya together, combined, make up the kriyapadam. In the case of verbs. In the case of nouns, we have something called a pratipadika. This is your prakriti. And your pratyaya contains the vibhakti, which is your declension. So like, you know, the agent, the object, the instrument, and so on, or the location or whatever, that's all the vibhakti. The pratyaya also contains the linga, which is the gender, and it also contains the vachana, which is the number. So prakriti we saw is this pratipadika, and the pratyaya is this whole thing, vibhakti, linga, and vachana. All right? So this prakriti and pratyaya together make up a nama padam. So let's come back to our current slide. Okay, so where are we? Let's bring it back here. Where are we? Aha, yes, okay. So here we see prakriti plus pratyaya. All right. Now the prakriti, this prakriti here is divided into two camps. The first one is called the dhatu. So here we have our dhatu, which is our verbal root. It's a verbal root. The dhatu we've already discussed many times is the verbal root. And I say this so many times so that you remember, because I know from experience that when I say things once or even twice, then it doesn't stick in the mind. So I try to say it a few times for you. And then our pratipadika is called as the nominal stem. Nominal stem. A nominal stem means the base of a noun, and dhatu is the base of a verb. Now in English we call them all these weird things, but let's just stick to calling them as dhatu and pratipadika from now on. Dhatu is the verbal root, pratipadika is the nominal stem, or a stem for a noun, base for a noun. All right, but we're not going to worry about nouns in this class. So let me make that clear. We're not worrying about nouns in this class. The reason for that is because the verb is a basic component of a sentence, or the glue of a sentence that keeps the entire sentence together. All right? So a verbal form like patati is complete in itself. It tells you everything you need to know. Incidentally, you may add Ramaha patati. So it tells you that, oh, Rama is the one who's doing the reading or the studying. Or Ramaha pustakam patati, that the pustakam or the book is the thing that is being read by Rama. So like that, you may incidentally add all these things, but the word pathati in itself is already a complete sentence. So the verb is really the basic unit of language. And as we discussed before, the reason for this is because our entire universe is made up of kriya. It's just a giant set of actions which are constantly taking place, which we observe as objects or as relations or whatever. But these are actually just basically in the form of action. And therefore, the verb is the more important part of a sentence. And all other parts of the sentence relate back to the verb in some direct or indirect way. And on top of that, even a pratipadika can be broken down, or most pratipadikas can be broken down into smaller components, which are actually made of dhatus and other pratyayas. A dhatu plus a particular type of pratyaya makes a pratipadika also. So even nouns, for example, we said this word Ramaha just now. Even the word Rama, which is a pratipadika, Rama, this is a pratipadika, which is a nominal stem, which will eventually become its declined forms like Ramaha, Ramam, Ramena, Ramaya. All of these things are declined forms of Rama, which you can just look on Google or look in any book to find what they mean. So that's why it's not really necessary to spend so much time on them. But even that Rama can be broken down into its smaller parts, which is Ram. Ram is a dhatu, not a drink. It's a dhatu. Ram means to revel. So you revel in something, that's called Ram. That's a dhatu, the action of reveling. What happened? Oh, it went away. Let's bring it back. Looking for... there we go. Okay, we're back. So Ram means to revel, okay? Perhaps that's the root of the name of the drink also, I don't know. That sometimes maybe that's what happens when you drink rum, I don't know. But rum means to revel or to rejoice in something. And the pratyaya that we attach it to is called ghai. Ghai. And ghai was one of the pratyayas in your homework that you had to do for week 8. So ghai attaches to rum, and together they have some chemical reaction and interaction, and they together form Rama. Rama, which becomes the pratipadika, which can eventually become declined. So you can see how we can even break down our pratipadikas down into dhatus. So dhatu is a more fundamental component of language. It's a more fundamental part of of Sanskrit. And therefore, in this class, we're focusing on dhatus. If you can learn how to grab and use a dhatu, then 90% of your battle in Sanskrit is won. The dhatu is everything, okay? That's why if we focus on this now, your life in Sanskrit will be way easier later. And funnily enough, in most places where they teach Sanskrit, they do it the other way around. They start with nouns. You enter into a Sanskrit class and they start you off. Okay, now, memorize this. Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha, Ramam, Ramau, Rama, Ramena, Rama, Abhyam, Rama. And they have you memorize this thing, and you never really understand how to use it in a sentence because you never understand dhatus. They don't focus on dhatus until 2 or 3 years later. By that time, you're already sufficiently confused that you don't want to continue studying Sanskrit. And it's no wonder that kids who study Sanskrit today are running away from the study because it's so difficult if you start from pratipadikas and work backwards like that. So we're starting from the actual bricks of the language, the real building blocks, the smallest Lego pieces. And we will slowly build them up to make bigger and bigger castles. But if you start with the castle, it can be overwhelming. So that's why we're starting with dhatus. I hope that's sufficient explanation. I don't want people to think like, oh, but in all other Sanskrit classes that I've been to, they don't even do this at all. What are you doing? Well, the truth is we're doing it in a more systematic way than other Sanskrit classes do. So, and this is actually This is the greatness of the method developed by my teacher, Professor Pushpa Dikshit, called the Paushpi Prakriya, where you start with dhatus, you start with the easier stuff and the stuff that's more useful so that you can actually speak. There's another note I have to make here, which is that this system of education that we have right now, wherein we start with Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha, the truth is that this way of learning has been popularized in this like school system model, okay, this Western education system model, where Sanskrit is one subject out of 100 subjects that a student has to take. And so, given that this way of doing things is very difficult, and this way of doing things was actually designed for the purpose of making it difficult so that people don't study it, so that they let go of their the study of their own language, because breaking down the language of a culture is the easiest way to break down a culture. So naturally, this is what the British wanted. This is how they designed the school system. And there's enough quotes and stuff that I don't have to mention here that indicate very clearly that the very purpose of doing it like this was to make Sanskrit unstudyable. And yet, long after the British left this country, that same curriculum, that same way of studying the stuff in this I would call as foolish manner continues to this day. It's the same thing as it always was. And because we no longer know our language anymore, the school system, the teachers in the school system are not able to update it or change the teaching system to fix it anymore. So anyway, so what I'm saying is there is a better way of learning Sanskrit, a more efficient way of learning Sanskrit. Consider this, we only have had 9 hours of class so far. This is the 10th hour of class. In 9 hours, along with some very deep linguistic philosophy that you have learned, you now know how to prepare every single dhatu ever. Ever. You can prepare them completely to the point where they are ready to interact with the world. That's not something that everybody can do so quickly. I know it seems simple to you because you haven't learned any other way. But if you've been through other methods of learning, then you would know that I couldn't even do this simple thing before, because that's not how they learn it. They learn one dhatu at a time. They don't learn 2,000 dhatus at once, which is how we've done it. Okay, anyway, onward. So, you have two types of prakriti. One type is a dhatu, and one type is a pratipadika. Dhatus are verbal roots, pratipadikas are nominal stems. We are focusing on the dhatu in this class. Now the dhatu has various types of pratyayas that attach to it. Okay, a dhatu has different kinds of pratyayas or suffixes, or also known as affixes, that attach to it, to finally make our verbal forms later, okay? There are 4 types of pratyayas that attach to a dhatu. The first type is called the sanadi pratyayas. We have already seen these. These are not a surprise for us. We have already seen these. There are 12 of them, and they are called dhatu making pratyayas, if you remember. Because as soon as a sanadi pratyaya, that is those 12 pratyayas beginning with san adi means sun is at the beginning of this list. Those 12, if you attach them to a dhatu, then again you get a new dhatu, because of one sutra that we saw way in the beginning called sanadyanta dhatavaha. I hope everybody's now we're building using what the tools we have gathered. So now if you're ready to build, then we can move forward. Once the sanadi pratyaya attaches to a dhatu, then you get this little loop. You get a circle that comes back here. And it says, hey, I'm a dhatu again. I'm ready for more. So it comes back here, and again could be attached to another sanadi pratyaya, or could be attached to one of the other ones. The second type of pratyaya that attaches is called a vikaranam. A vikaranam is a pratyaya that comes in between a dhatu and a different pratyaya. So we'll get to what this means later. I have put it here because it's part of these pratyayas, but we will focus on this in the next class. The next type of pratyaya is called ting. Ting pratyaya. Okay, let's put a number 3 here. The next type of pratyaya is called ting. The word ting is a pratyahara. You remember this word pratyahara? We used it to refer to a shortcut, especially shortcuts we could make from the Maheshwara Sutras. But ting is a pratyahara that is not made from the Maheshwara Sutras. It is made from a different sutra that lists out all of these different pratyayas, 18 different pratyayas that are used to refer to those different vachana, the different numbers, and purusha, the different persons. So ting pratyayas are those pratyayas that actually give us those extra 3 things that we saw. Let's come back here and bring it back to where we were. Hello, hello, hello. Yes. Oh, this is not that. Here we are. Okay. Okay. The ting pratyaya is the one that is going to give us these 3 things. The ting pratyaya is the one that contains all of these. It's the one that indicates to you the lakara we are speaking in. It is the one that indicates to you the vachanam that we are speaking, that means the number. And it's the one that indicates to you the purusha that we're speaking in, or the person. So that ting pratyaya, that single pratyaya, contains all 3 of these things. Okay? So now we come back. Thank goodness all these slides get saved here, so I can refer to all of them all the time. Very helpful. Okay. And these ting pratyayas, we'll see the examples of them in the coming slides, okay? So no need to worry if it's not fully clear right now. I'll get to this. And the 4th type of pratyaya is called a krit pratyaya. Oh, let me change the color back to red. The 4th type of pratyaya is called a krit pratyaya. A krit pratyaya is one that creates a pratipadika. Okay? So sanadi were ones that create dhatus again, and a krit pratyaya, once it gets attached to a dhatu, it comes back here. So one example of a krit pratyaya that we just saw is ghai. After you do the it sanya, thanks to halantyam and lashakva tadhite, you are left with a, and you attach that a to the dhatu called ram. Okay, so that a is a krit pratyaya ghai, and it attaches to the dhatu ram, and together they form rama, and that rama is a pratipadika. So once this krit pratyaya gets attached, and there are many different types of krit pratyayas that tell you different things. Ghai is in the meaning of bhava, or the particular feeling of that dhatu. So when I say rama, it means the feeling of revelry, reveling. And so that when the krit pratyaya gets attached to a dhatu, then it forms a pratipadika, which can then be declined. All right. So the dhatu attaches to these 4 types of pratyayas. And these 4 types of pratyayas do different things. They do various things for the dhatu. They expand the meaning of the dhatu to be expressed in different forms. So we're going to focus over here right now on the ting pratyayas, because that's the most important thing. No, no pun intended. It's the most important thing that for a dhatu to express in a particular tense or a mood. So these ting pratyayas, these 18 pratyayas, they come in the place of 10 lakaras. We talked about these 10 tenses and moods before. 10 tenses and moods that express the dhatu in a particular time or in a particular mood. Like, for example, commanding or requesting or inviting or questioning or what, so these different moods are there, or giving ashirvad, some kind of a benediction, or there are different moods that are there, or tenses, talking in the present tense, past tense, future tense. So these different tenses and moods make up these 10 lakaras, okay? And so let's see them really quickly. Okay, good. You can see that there. There are 10 lakaras, okay? The reason they are called lakara is because they start with the letter la, okay? So all of these 10 different things are called 10 lakaras, beginning with the letter la, and they indicate different tenses and different moods. So don't worry about these things right now. I'll talk about those in a second. All right. So number 1, lat. Lat means the present tense. When I talk in the present tense, then I use lat, lakara. That's how we call it, lat lakara. It is used to indicate the present tense. Lot lakara is the second one. Lot lakara is used to indicate a command or a question or a request, or let it be so, that kind of meaning is there with lot. And actually, let me also give you examples as we go on. Lat lakara, let's use the example of the dhatu niya, which we already saw. Niya. Remember, after it sanya, it remains as ni. And after you do the satvadi chatvari karyani, that is those preparatory putting makeups on the on the dhatu, then that na, because of the rule no naha, turns into na. So you're left with ni, which means to lead or to carry. So let's say ni wants to be expressed in lat lakara. The way in which it'll eventually sound is nayati. Nayati. All right? And I'll even write it here just so that it's easy to see. Nayati is one example of a lat lakara form. This means leads. He or she or it or you, respectfully, leads or carries. Lot, the example of lot. Nayatu. Nayatu. Nayatu means you lead or you carry, or let him or her lead or carry. We're finally getting to see these final forms. That's fun. We still have to build the house, by the way. We have our bricks and our mortar, and everything is now gathered. Everything is ready. This is, now I'm showing you the blueprint. You have to look at a paper that says, okay, this is what it's going to look like in the future. So that's what I'm showing you right now. And then we will actually build it. Okay, number 3. Lang lakara. Lang. Lang means past tense that happened before today. So not including today, the past tense, which means yesterday and before. So example of lang looks like this. Anayat. Anayat means he or she or it or you carried or led yesterday and before at some point. That's called lung. Vidhiling. Vidhiling is, in English, it's called as the optative, but that word doesn't mean anything to anyone. So what it actually means is exactly the same thing as lot. Lot and vidhiling have the same meaning. It means requesting, commanding, saying that let it be like this, or it should be like this, or may it be like this. All of those meanings are there in vidhiling. There's a nice long sutra that explains the meaning of this, which we will see another time. And the way in which this will eventually look is nayet. Nayet. All of these four forms that we saw, these four forms are all the Prathama Purusha. That means first person in Sanskrit, but third person in English. He, she, it. And it's also used to respectfully refer to you as well. Prathama Purusha, Ekavachanam. That means singular. Ekavachanam. Singular. So these are the third person singular forms of ni dhatu. Okay? These are the four lakaras. These are the four lakaras that we will be learning in this class at this level. Okay? These are the level 1 lakaras. And the reason they're called level 1 lakaras is because they're very easy to make. There's like a direct connection between ni and nayati, nayatu, anayat, nayet. They all look very similar. And they're all formed in exactly the same way. They have the same process to make them. So we will be focusing on these four lakaras in this class. And these four lakaras together are called the Sarvadhatuka lakaras. Sarvadhatuka. This is a way of distinguishing two types of prakriyas, or two types of derivations to get to your ending form. Okay? So Sarvadhatuka is one type of derivation, and therefore these are all made in the same way. And the others are called as Ardhadhatuka, which is a different type of derivation that is made in another way, which we will see eventually. But actually, the whole derivation process is the same for all of these. But we'll get to that eventually. But these four are made exactly the same way. They have the same process. There's no difference. And therefore, we make them all together. You know what that means? We will be dealing with all the dhatus at once. We're not going to be dealing with some dhatus and then some other dhatus. No. All of the dhatus together will be our sandbox that we're working in. Okay? So we will be making one lakara at a time for all infinite dhatus together. That's how we're going to progress from now on. We make one lakara at a time for all the dhatus together. And so at the end, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different ways of expressing every single dhatu that ever was. The way in which they otherwise do it right now, and I keep pointing out the way in which they do it right now, just so you understand, because for those of you who are studying this for the first time, you've never seen another way of studying. So if it seems easy and all that to you, then that's because you haven't seen the way in which it's taught otherwise. The way in which they do it right now in other methods is you take one dhatu and you make 10 lakaras for that dhatu at a time. That means by the end of it, you are capable of making one verb in 10 forms. That's all. Which is crazy that it takes so long to make even one verb, bhu, bhavati. And that bhavati gets made into all these other bhavatu, abhavat, bhavet, babhuva, and so on and so on. Bhavita. And you have all these different ways of making it. And they don't even make it in this order. They make it in alphabetical order. So they do lut, then they jump to lit, then they jump to lut, then they go to lit, then back to lot, then to lung. So they're like jumping between these two different ways of making the dhatu. And so it takes you 2 years to even make one dhatu in 10 lakaras. So at the end of 2 years, your friend calls you, hey, did you finally make bhavati in your class? This is actually a real situation. I'm not joking. This actually happened, where one kid I was studying with has a friend who's studying in some other place. Okay, and after a year, that kid calls this kid who I'm studying with, who has already made all dhatus in all these 10 lakaras, every single dhatu for every single lakara. And that kid is asking this friend of mine, so have you made bhavati yet? Actually, this is like a real situation. So that poor kid, after 1 year of study, has been able to make one dhatu and one lakara. And this kid has, after 1 year of study, has made all 12 lakaras for all infinite dhatus. Plus more. I mean, this is just, so it's mind blowing how slow we've become. So now we're gonna do all these together. So so I'll just tell you the meaning of the ardha dhatuka lakaras also, just so you know, because it's important. Lit means the past tense that happened so far back that nobody remembers it. It's called the aparoksha bhutakala. Or sorry, paroksha bhutakala, not aparoksha, paroksha bhutakala. That means that thing which is beyond anybody's memory, beyond anybody's direct perception, it happened so far back. So we usually use this kind of a lakara in the epics. So you'll say Ramaha babhuva, that Rama happened way back in the day, something like that, where before anybody's recollection or memory or anybody's direct perception. So that's lit lakara, way past. Then you have lut lakara. Lut means the future tense that happens after today. So again, future not dealing with today. Then you have lit, and I'll give you examples using another dhatu because why not? So you can see more than one dhatu. So lit looks like this. This is for bhu dhatu, okay? Bhu, which means to be or to become. Babhuva, which means happened in the past sometime, long time ago. Once upon a time, that's what it means. Once upon a time, babhuva, happened. Lut, this means the future tense after today. Bhavita. Bhavita means will happen, will be, but not today. Another time. Lit means future tense, including today. Including today. So you might say, wait a second, that means lut is a subset of lit. Well, that's true. Okay. This one looks like this. Bhavishyati. Bhavishyati. That means will happen anytime after right now. Ashirling. This is called the benedictive mood. It means when you give some kind of benediction, or in Sanskrit what they call is the ashirvada. That means you're giving some kind of like, oh, may you grow and become a wonderful, doctor or whatever Indian parents want. May you grow and become something, or may you be prosperous, or may you be healthy, or whatever. This is that kind of thing, a benediction that you give. So it looks like this. Bhuyat. Bhuyat. Shubham bhuyat. Let it be auspicious. Let auspiciousness reign. Okay. Then lung lakara. This is the past tense, including today. Anytime before right now. Lung lakara. Simple past tense. Although it's not so simple to make it. This one looks like this. Abhut. Abhut. So people ask, Kim abhut? Kim abhut? That means what happened? Very common. What happened? And then lring, this is called the conditional future tense in English. But what it means actually is there's an element of past and an element of future that are mixed together here. So it's like would have been like this, or would be like this. And this one looks like this. Abhavishyat. Abhavishyat. It would have been like this. So people will say like, Yadi vrishtihi abhavishyat. Or if rain would have happened, tadhi kinchit sheetalata abhavishyat. Then it would have been a little bit cooler around here. But vrishti na abhavat. But rain didn't happen, and therefore it's still really hot. Which is true. But rain did happen actually, didn't it? Last night I heard it. Oh, today morning, yeah, it was raining. So thank the gods, it started raining. Hopefully it rains more and it becomes a little cooler. So here are all these different forms of these different tenses and moods. And you can see how, so one dhatu can be expressed in these different ways. A single dhatu, whether it's ni or bhu or pat or whatever, can be expressed in these different ways. And so you've got all these different forms for a single dhatu, which expresses it in these 10 different ways. And not to mention that all 10 of these have 3 persons and 3 numbers. So let's take a look. Ting pratyayas. Those lakaras that we just saw all get replaced by 18 ting pratyayas. Okay? And these 18 ting pratyayas are divided into 2 sets of 9. The first set of 9 is called parasmai pada, and the second set of 9 is called atmane pada. Now, parasmai technically means for the other, for somebody else. And atmane means for myself. Now, maybe in the ancient days, this distinction was there that, oh, when I talk in atmane pada, I mean I'm doing something for myself. When I talk in parasmai pada, it means I'm doing that thing for somebody else. But today, that distinction is a little bit more hazy. We don't really distinguish so much like that. Different dhatus can be expressed in parasmai pada or atmane pada, or in ubhaya pada, which means both. So different dhatus have these different designations, but I wouldn't worry too much about it right now. We'll get there when we get there. Now here are the first 9 ting pratyayas. Okay, this is remember, ting, that word is a pratyahara, which is a shortcut to refer to these 18 different pratyayas, and we'll see why in a second. So here we have a chart. You've got on the top ekavachana, that means singular, dvivachana, which means dual, and bahuvachana, which means plural. Singular, dual, and plural. And on the left-hand side, you have prathama purusha, madhyama purusha, and uttama purusha, which means prathama purusha means third person in English. But in Sanskrit, you can see prathama purusha means first. Prathama, the word means first. So prathama purusha means first person. That means in Sanskrit, and I've already said this before, but that means in Sanskrit, the first person is somebody else. The first person is you, or he, or she, or it. That's our first person. That's the first person we care about, which means, well, it indicates something about the culture that formed around this language. Just imagine. Imagine a culture where everybody cares about other people first. Can you imagine such a culture? It's really hard to imagine because we have been conditioned and trained to think of ourselves first since the time we were born. So to even imagine a culture where people think about other people first, that's almost beyond our imaginative capacity. But still, imagine it. And Sanskrit facilitates that imagination by telling you, hey, Prathama Purusha is the other person. Then you have Madhyama Purusha, which is the middle person, which is in English, I think it's called the diminutive or something like that, which means when you talk to a child or somebody younger than you or somebody very close to you, or sometimes when you talk to your mother or you talk to God, things which are like intimately close, let's put it that way, intimately close are called Madhyama Purusha. And then Uttama Purusha refers to me, the ultimate person, or the best person, something like that. Uttama Purusha. Okay, so that is in English what's called as first person. So these are pratyayas. Okay, in the middle we've got our little chart. Tip is a pratyaya, which will eventually attach to a dhatu. That tip pratyaya is called the Prathama Purusha Eka Vachana Pratyaya. So let me circle it for you here. There is tip right there. And notice how it's coming from Prathama Purusha and Eka Vachanam. So it is the Prathama Purusha Eka Vachana Pratyaya. And it's Parasmai Pada. So we call it as a Prathama Purusha Eka Vachana Parasmai Pada Pratyaya. Okay, that's called tip. What if we move over here like this? Tas. This is the second pratyaya. This pratyaya is Prathama Purusha Dvivachana Pratyaya. That's how it works. You have this little chart of 9, and these 9 determine everything. They are everything. All right. So we've seen these. Now let's just say them. I'll say it once. Okay, I'll say each line once, and you repeat after me. Tip tas jhi. Go ahead. Let's try that again. Tip tas jhi.
Tip tas jhi.
Sip tas tha.
Sip tas tha.
Sip tas tha.
Sip tas tha.
Mip vas mas.
Mip vas mas.
Mip vas mas.
Mip vas mas.
These are the 9 Parasmai Pada Pratyayas. All right. Now we have to still, they have just been given to us as the Upadesha, remember? And therefore, we have to perform the Itsanya operations on them first. So let's look at tip real quick. Halantyam will take care of that pa, and then tasya lopa removes it, and you're left with ti. And that's how you get nayati. Now what about tas? Now tas has sa at the end. Yes, halantyam applies, but na vibhaktau tusmaha says, hey, in these are called vibhakti pratyayas, which I've already talked about. Now we're actually seeing the pratyayas for the first time. In the vibhakti pratyayas, don't get rid of the ending tu, that means tatha dadhana, sa or ma. So here we have sa at the end, and therefore it doesn't get removed, and it remains as tas. And that sa will eventually become a visarga, and you get nayataha. So you had nayati, then you get nayataha. Ji we'll worry about later. What about sip? Again, that pa goes away because of halantyam and tasya lopa, and you're left with si, and then you get nayasi. Tvam nayasi. Tvam means you, or actually it means thou in English. It means thou. You know, in English we also have this diminutive thing. We have thou and thee and all that stuff. And you is actually the plural for you. It's actually the plural. But we at some point we lost the middle thing and we just started saying you because it's more convenient, it's easier. And so now we only say you, but actually you is a respectful form of you. Just so you know, food for thought. Okay, so you get C. That's how you get like phrases, in case you ever studied any Vedanta before, you have these phrases like tat tvam asi. That asi is actually this C here, talking to you. Tvam asi. Then, and asi means you are. It's another form of is. Then you have thus, again, navibhakta uttusmaha says, sa, don't go away, don't go away. So it will eventually become nayatha. And then tha, nothing happens here, so you get nayatha. How about mip? Again, the pa goes away and you get me, so you get nayami eventually, which we'll talk about how that happens, nayami. Then vas, the sa doesn't go away, it becomes a visarga, so it'll become nayavaha. And then mas, nayamaha. That's parasmaipada. Now we won't spend as much time, but here's atmanepada. This is the second set of 9. And these all get given to us together in one sutra by Panini, which we'll eventually see. In the notes, we'll have slightly more detailed descriptions, but nevertheless. So check this out. Ta atam jha. Now you guys can repeat after me. Ta atam jha.
Ta atam jha.
Ta atam jha.
Ta atam jha.
Thas atam dhvam.
Thas atam dhvam.
Thas atam dhvam.
Thas atam dhvam.
Id vahi mahing.
Id vahi mahing.
Id vahi mahing.
Id vahi mahing.
All right. Now, if you look at the last one, let's just skip to the last one here, okay? Because it's more exciting. Mahing. That mahing ends with the letter nga. Yes, it ends with the letter nga. And let's go back to our, and let me erase these so that we can see it real quick. And that tip starts with ti. So if you take that ti and you mix it with this nga, then you get ting. Ting. And that's how you get the name ting pratyayas. Okay, this is a pratyahara. A pratyahara means a shortcut, a short way of referring to all of these 18 pratyayas. Ting. Okay, so that's why these are called ting pratyayas. So that's I've written here. These are collectively called ting pratyayas, all of them. Now you can do the it sanya stuff on these also. Very easy. Notice how you've got ma at the end of most of these and sa. So nothing really happens here. Ta, atam, jha, thas, atam, dhvam. These all remain the same. Then it, okay, that da goes away and you're left with e. Actually, it's a ta which goes away. It becomes e. Then vahi, nothing happens. And mahing, the nga goes away and you get mahi. And that's how you get forms like nayata, nayatam, and so on and so on. We'll get there. All right. So here are the ting pratyayas. I'm just showing you this and then we have to end, unfortunately. But I'm just showing you this so that it's there in your screen at some point during the webinar. These are on page 10 and 11 of your Dhatu Patha book. So if you open your Dhatu Patha to page 10 and 11, you'll find these. And it's there in the, obviously in the PDF on the Dhatu Patha page 10 and 11. I don't know what page of the PDF actually it is. I didn't look at that, but it's Dhatu Patha page 10 and 11. So here you have the different transformations of these same 18 ting pratyayas for the different lakaras, okay? Different lakaras are expressed only through these 18 ting pratyayas, which will eventually replace that la sound. And for each different lakara, you have these different formations. And so you have ti taha anti, si taha tha, mi vaha maha, te ite ante, se ite dve, e vahe mahe for lat lakara, for ni and bhu and all these different, and pat and so on. Then you have tu tat tam antu, shunya tat tam ta, ani ava ama, tam itam, and so on and so on. So, okay, I won't list all of them. You can read them yourself. But these different pratyayas are all of the different forms For lat, lot, lung, vidhiling. That's all. When they attach to a single dhatu, you get all these different forms. So there's 72 of these pratyayas. And in a very short time like this, we will learn how to make all of these. And then suddenly you'll know how to make all of these 4 different lakara forms for all of the different dhatus. It's a magical process from here on out. You'll just be like, what? I didn't even know when I learned it, and suddenly I learned it. Okay? So we'll get there. I'm just showing you this so you have it on your screen. Eventually, if you want to go back to it, you can take a look at it. And I'll include it in the notes also. But we'll end there for now. And we will expand on this in the next class. I've given you like a broad, a big overview, okay? And we will expand on this and give it some more depth in the next class. So I wanted you to at least see the whole thing from start to finish. And then next class, we will come right back to here, to our first slide. And we will expand on exactly what all these things mean, how they work, etc. Okay? And how these lakaras eventually become all these thing pratyayas. What does that mean? How does it happen? All of that stuff we will see. And those are the things that are going to eventually attach to the dhatu to make our forms. So we will get there. If you didn't understand everything today, don't worry. It's not the end of the world, because we will see all of it again next week, but with more clarity and more depth. All right, this was the bird's eye view. Next time will be the, what do you call the opposite of bird's eye view? The deep dive view. Or you can say this was the coarse grain view, and next time we will see the fine grain view, or whatever, however you want to put it. Okay, so we've seen a picture, now we'll get into it next time. So let's conclude. And your homework this week, by the way, will be to start to memorize those thing pratyayas. That's your homework for this week. To start. If you don't have it memorized by next time, don't worry. But the way in which I said it, ti taha anti, si taha tha, mi vaha maha, te ite ante, se ite dve, e vahe mahe. Like that is how you will have to memorize it eventually. So people have been asking, oh, is there like a ton of memorization and all that stuff? Not a ton, but a little bit. These tiny things which takes, 1 or 2 seconds to say, that you do have to eventually memorize some things. But it's more about recognition than about memorization eventually. All right, let's conclude. Please share that. The concluding. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Oh yes, the solutions for week 8 are posted. So my apologies for the delay in posting them. Okay, Hari Om everyone. Thank you. See you next week.